Have you ever talked out of an interview and thought, I should have said that differently? Or even worse, sat there blanking on a question you knew was coming because you never actually practiced your answer out loud. Welcome back to Go with 9x. Today, I am giving you the complete step-by-step framework for interview preparation, the same process career approaches and recruiters recommend broken down into 8 career steps you can actually follow. This is not about luck, and it is not about being naturally charismatic. Interview success comes down to three things: self-reflection, company research, and practical preparation. Do these three things well, and you walk into that room more prepared than almost anyone else they will talk to. In the end of this video, you will know exactly how to break down a job description, research a company your interviews like a pro, structure answers to any behavioral question using the STAR method. Yes, the STAR, the STAR method. Ask questions that make you the memorable candidate and the handle every logistical detail so nothing catches you off guard. Let's get into it. Before we get into the steps, let's talk about why this actually matters. Because a lot of people treat interview prep as an afterthought and it shows. Here's the thing. Employers are not just testing what you know. They are testing how clearly that you can communicate it, how genuinely you are interested are in their company especially, and how well you have thought though whether this role is actually right for you. That's not something you can fake in the moment. It has to be prepared. This video is built around 4 pillars. First, understanding the role, really understanding what the job description is telling you. Second, researching the company and people interviewing you. Third, mastering the different types of questions you will face. Common questions, behavioral questions, and possibly the technical ones. And fourth, handling the practical stuff, logistics, mock practice, and how you show up. By the end, you will have a repeatable framework, not just tips for this interview, but a process you can ask for every interview for the rest of your career. 8 steps, 1 confident interview. Let's start with step 1. Step 1. Understand the job description. This sounds obvious, right? But most people skip it once and move on. That's a mistake. The job description is the single best blueprint you have for exactly what this employer is looking for. So treat it that way. Here's how to actually use it. First, analyze the requirements. Yes, analyze the requirements. Go through it line by line. What skills are listed? What qualifications? What responsibilities show up again and again? If something's mentioned multiple times or listed first, it's probably a top priority for the hiring manager. Don't just read it, annotate it. Second, align your experience. For every major requirement, ask yourself, where have I actually done this before? And I mean specially not, I am good at communication, but I lead a cross-functional team of 6 people do a product launch. Prepare concrete examples for as many of this as you can. This is the raw material you will use later as when we talk about the STAR method, this so-called STAR method. Third, and this is the one people avoid, identify your gaps. Be honest about where your experience falls short. Maybe the role wants 5 years of experience and you have 3. Maybe it wants a tool you have never been used. That's okay. The key is having a strategy ready. Maybe you highlight how quickly you have picked up similar tools in the past, or you point to transferable skills from an adjacent area. What you don't know is to get caught off guard by a gap you never thought about until the interviewer brings it up. Do this properly, and you will walk into the interview already knowing exactly where you are strong, where you will need to frame a weakness, and the stories you will tell to prove you are right fit. Now the step 2, research the company. This is where a lot of candidates go the bare minimum. Maybe they skip the about page 5 minutes before the call. Don't be that candidate. Deep research does two things. It shows genuine interest and it gives you material to sharpen every single answer you give. There are 3 areas to focus on. First, mission and values. What this company actually say it stands for. You will usually find this on their website and social media. But don't stop there. Check Glassdoor too. Employees, their reviews often tell you what the culture is actually like, not just what the marketing page says. If there's a mismatch between the stated values and what employees are saying, that's useful information either way. Second, products and services. Make sure you actually understand what this company does. And I mean beyond one-line description. If it's a product you can try yourself, try it. Sign up for a free trial, use the app, order the product. Nothing impresses an interviewer more than a candidate who says, I actually used the product last week and here's what I noticed. The third, recent news. Do a quick search for recent press releases or new articles. Are they launching something new? Did they just raise funding? Are they going through a tough patch, layoffs, leadership changes, a controversy? Understanding their current initiatives and challenges lets you speak to now, not some outdated impression of the company from 2 years ago. All of this research fits directly into the questions like, why do you want to work there? Which you will cover in a few minutes. Generic answers get generic outcomes. Specific research gets you embraced. This step 3. If you know who's interviewing you, research them specifically. A lot of companies will tell you the interview's name in the calendar invite. Don't skip past that detail. Start with LinkedIn. Look at their career trajectory. How did they get to where they are? What was their path? Look at their current role and how long they have been there. And look for anything you might have in common. A shared school, a previous employer, a mutual connection, even a shared interest mentioned in the profile. Why does this matter? Because it lets you tailor how you communicate. If you are talking to someone from an engineering background, you might lean more technical in how you frame your experience. If you are talking to someone who's clearly people focused, maybe they post a lot about team culture, you might emphasize collaboration and mentorship in your answers. It also gives you material to genuine rapport. If you notice you both went to the same university or worked at a similar company earlier in your career, that's a natural, authentic way to open the conversation, not a forced icebreaker, but something real. And when it comes time for you to ask questions, you can tailor those specifically to their expertise. Asking a VP of engineering a thoughtful, technical question about their team's architecture decisions, landing very differently than asking a generic question you could have asked anyone. This very step 4, prepare for the common questions, the ones you can basically guarantee will come up in some form. First, tell me about yourself. This is almost always the opening question and it trips up more people than any other because they either ramble for 5 minutes or quiz completely. The fix is to prepare a tight 60 to 90-second elevator pitch. Structure it roughly like where you are now professionally. A couple of highlights from your background that are relevant to this role and why you are excited about this specific opportunity. Practice it loud until it feels natural, not memorized sounding, just smooth. Second, why do you want to work there? This is where all that company research from step 2 pays off. The weak answer is generic. I have heard great things about the culture. The strong answer connects your personal career goals directly to something specific about the company's mission or direction. For example, I have been I have been focused on building products that scale globally, and I noticed you just expanded into 3 new markets. That's exactly the kind of challenge I want to be a part of. Specific beats generic every time. And here's the third one. What was the greatest strengths and weaknesses? For strengths, don't just name a trait. Relate it directly to what this job needs and back it up with a quick example. For weaknesses, this is a self-awareness test, not a trick question. Pick something real, not a disguised humble brag like I work too hard. Talk about an actual area you are improving and show that you are doing it about it. Interviewers are not looking for perfection, they are looking for honesty and growth. Yes, you heard it right. They are looking for honesty and growth. Prepare these three, and you have already covered the questions that they, they open almost every interview. Here's the five. Step 5, and this is a big one, behavioral questions. These are questions that ask you to describe a specific past experience because employers believe past behavior predicts future behavior. You will recognize them immediately. Tell me about a time when, or give me an example of. The best way to structure these answers is the STAR method. Yes, the STAR method. That means situation, task, action, and result. Some people use a simpler variant called SAR, situation, action, result, which just combine the first two. Either works, but let's down break the full STAR version. Situation. Set the context. What was going on? Where are you working? What was the environment? What was at stake? Keep this brief a couple of sentences. Task. What was your specific responsibility in that situation? What are you being asked for? Or what did you decide needed to happen? Action. This is the meat of your answer. What exact steps did you take? Not your team. You be specific about your individual contribution, even if it was a team effort. Result. What happened? This is the part people skip or rush though, and it's the most important part. Whenever possible, quantify it. Did you save time, increase revenue, reduce errors? Numbers make results memorable and credible. It went all is forgettable. We cut processing time by 40% stakes. Here's the practical tip. Don't try to improvise this in the moment before your interview. Prepare 2 or 3 strong start stories from your own experience, ideally ones that can flex your text to answer multiple types of questions like leadership, conflict resolution, or problem solving. Let's actually work through a full example so you can see exactly how this looks in practice. Let's use one of the most common behavioral prompts out there. Tell me about a time you showed leadership. Situation: a project was falling behind schedule and team morale was starting to slip because of it. Notice how that's just 2 sentences, enough context to understand and the stakes, without rambling though unnecessary backstory. Task: as your senior team member on the project, it fell to you to get things back on track. This tells the interviewer exactly what your role, the responsibility was in this situation. You were not just a bystander, you are accountable. Action: you reorganized priorities, ran daily check-ins to keep everyone aligned, and personally unblocked 2 teammates who were stuck. This is the part where you show specific concrete actions, not "I helped the team", but the actual things you physically did. Result: the project shipped on time, and the processes you introduced was adopted for future sprints. Notice that last detail. It's not just we hit the deadline, it's that your solution had lasting impact beyond that one project. That's a great way to end a star answer because it shows the result you was not a one-time look. Now, try this yourself before your next interview. Take one story from your own experience and force it into this exact structure: situation, task, action, result, the STAR method. In that order, out loud, timed to under 2 minutes, you will be shocked at how much more confident and polished it sounds compared to trying to improvise to live it. Step 6. This applies depending on your industry. Technical or case questions. If you are interviewing for a role in tech, consulting, finance, or similarly specialized field, standard questions often are not the whole interview. There's frequently a technical assessment or a case study layered on top. For tech roles, this usually means coding problems, system design questions, or take-home technical assessments. If you know the company uses a particular stack, the tech stack Check the job description, check their engineering blog if they have one, practice problems specifically relevant to that stack, not just generic algorithmic questions. For consulting and business roles, expect structured case studies, things like market sizing questions, profitability breakdowns, or how would you solve this business problem scenarios. These are not really testing whether you get the actually right answer, they are testing how you structure your thinking under pressure. Practice talking though your logic out loud, step by step, rather than just blurting out conclusions. And this applies across any technical role. Go back to the job description one more time and look for any specific tools, languages, frameworks, or methods that are named directly. If a job description says experience with SQL and Python required, you can be almost certain you will get asked something related to those specifically. Don't leave that to chance. Brush up on exactly what's named. The bottom line here, if your role has a technical component, generic interview prep is not enough. You need targeted practice specific to what this employer will actually test. Step 7. And this one gets overlooked constantly. The questions you ask at the end of the interview. Remember, an interview is a two-way conversation. You are evaluating them just too much as they are evaluating you, and asking good questions signals genuine engagement. There are three categories worth preparing. First, role-specific questions. Something like, what does a typical day look like for a person in this position? This shows you are thinking practically about actually doing the job, not just getting the offer. Second, culture and team questions. Things like, what qualities do you most successful employees have? Or how do you describe the management style there? These questions help you genuinely access fit, and they also signal that you care about more than just the paycheck. You care about whether you will actually thrive there. And the third one, and this is one you should basically always ask. And next step questions. Something simple like, what are the next steps in the hiring process? This does two things. It shows you are organized and serious, and it gives you concrete information about timeline so you are not left wondering when you will hear back. The pro tip here, prepare 4 or 5 questions in advance because some of them might get naturally answered during the conversation. You want to walk in with a reserve so you are never caught saying, I don't have any questions, which to most interviewers reads as a lack of genuine interest. Now, just as important as knowing what to ask, knowing what not to ask. At least not yet. The clearest example, avoid asking about salary, benefits, or vacation time during an initial interview, unless the employer brings it up first. I know this can feel counterintuitive. Compensation obviously matters, but here's the reasoning. Leading with those questions in an early round can signal the wrong priorities before you have had the chance to establish your value and demonstrate why you are worthy hiring in the first place. This doesn't mean these topics are off limits forever. They are completely fair game later in the process once you are further along closer to a final round, or once you have received an offer. At that stage, discussing compensation is expected and appropriate. It's purely a timing issue. If the employer brings it up first, say in the job posting or early in the conversation, that's different, and you absolutely engage with it. The rule here is not never talk about money. It's let it come at the right moment, and don't be the one who leads with it too early. Step 8, the final piece, and it's the practical logistical layer that a lot of people skip past because it feels less important than the content of their answers. That's not. These details are often what separates a prepared candidate from everyone else. First, mock interviews. Practice answering questions out loud, not just in your head. Do this with a friend, a mentor, or a career coach if you have access to one. There's a massive difference between thinking you know your answer and actually hearing yourself to say. Smooths out awkward phrasing and significantly reduces anxiety on the actual day because your brain has already rehearsed the motion. Second, logistics. If it's an in-person interview, play your role in advance and aim to arrive early, not right on time, early. So you have a buffer for the unexpected. If it's virtual test, your technology beforehand, your camera, your microphone, your internet connection and make sure your background tools look professional and is not distracting. Nothing undercuts your preparation faster than technical issues 5 minutes into the call. Third, attire. Dress appropriately for the company's culture. Generally, this means leaning toward professional business attire unless you have been told otherwise. For example, if it's a very casual startup and you have been explicitly told jeans are fine, when in doubt, it mostly always safer to be slightly overdressed than underdressed. Get all three of this right and there's nothing left to distract you or the interview from the substance of your answers. Let's bring it all together. Understand the role by breaking down the job description, research the company, and if you can, the specific people interviewing you. Structure your answers using the STAR method, the STAR so-called STAR method for anything behavioral. Ask thoughtful questions that show genuine engagement and hold off on the salary questions until later and handle the logistics practice out loud. Short your tech and road dress the part. That's the complete framework. 8 steps. It's not complicated, but it does take the real effort, and that effort is exactly what separates the candidates who walk in confident from the ones who wing it and hope for the best. In this video, you have a clear plan for your next interview. Hit subscribe, go with 9x, and puts you career growth contents like just like this every week, from interview prep to salary negotiation and basic professional career building skills to building your personal brand at work. Drop a comment and let me know which one of these 8 steps are you going to focus on first. I will see you in the next one. Till then, bye.